are gonna get a picture. I'm gonna get off the stage. We're gonna get a picture, and I'm gonna give you a big old bear hug. Who we got?
Get a picture. I bet you those are pretty good. Would have been
Prime combos. Prime combos.
I couldn't find it. It was such a dead air, so I was like, I'm not gonna sit there and look for it. Oh, what's up, dude? Man, how you doing? Good to see you, dude. We're having a blast. My voice is gone, like every other national. It wouldn't be a national without my voice being gone. So, good to see you too. You had a baby. Not him, but his wife. You know. Yeah.
Not him.
Who was it? What's up, man?
Oh, I don't know.
Thank you. Hey, did Dan ever get back to you on that? Okay, cool. He just had a baby, so.
Yeah, it's not on here, so.
Wow. Yes, yeah. And then getting ready for this, I'm without him.
Prime combos signatures.
Good, man.
How
about you? I know you have you're the one doing content every day. It seems like these days.
And it's big old pad, 2 signatures, and then gold signatures. I probably remember the whatever. This was the case of.
Right, switches off.
What do you want to do with this?
I'm gonna put all parts back in this section. I need one more mini box. Just keep the box. I'm gonna find another mini box. Yeah, I'm gonna keep one.
I'm gonna go get one. Yeah. Oh no, I'll just get one from right there. Don't worry about coffee. I mean, unless you're gonna wait. It's a long line.
Oh, yeah, I'll grab something. I'm gonna go right now. What's up? I mean, yeah, if you're grabbing stuff, I'll grab something. Appreciate it. Do they have it over here in the little whatnot area? I might just do that. There might be. If they have that, then I'll probably just do that.
and then make. Okay. So that's the as far as you want to go down.
You can go all the way to St. Mountain.
How have you been? I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. I'm good. Yes, I'm moving north from down the street. It's a little cooler in the air conditioning.
Oh my gosh, yeah, pretty big.
I'd rather get chilly.
Yeah, very nice.
Dying of last year, the most popular acquisition of National was Coke. And this year, the most popular acquisition of National fans. Somebody told me that people fan Target is they were even people Target said, "You have a what? Fans for the last couple of years." That's
Hey, does any who wants to use a headset?
Oh, what's going on, Dylan? Oh my goodness! Oh, she's precious. Hi! Hi! Yeah! Yeah. Yeah, we're the 11. Absolutely.
What's up? She cutie.
It's this. His wife's pregnant. He's sitting here. You're here. I'll switch over there. You're going headset?
I'm getting the mic. Okay, I'm getting my own mic.
I'm telling you. Is this part of yours? I didn't want to.
Let me ask.
We're not.
You're not showing anything, okay? I think you can just probably just show it to that camera.
Done.
So if you're showing anything.
It's done.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, no problem. I didn't want to pull a wire by accident.
So I don't know if you guys have certain places that you want to sit. Just
Yeah. Yeah, I think Rich picked this spot out already.
oh wow, look at me! I am next to John.
All right. Last year I was in the second row.
Oh, you were? Yeah, you were.
So the best thing to do, guys, would probably be to space it out, though.
Yeah.
So you can have like a microphone between two people, just so you can just take it off and go with it.
After you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not necessary right now, but we're gonna get them out of the stands so we can, we can pass.
How's everything been going on with you?
Check it out.
Show so
Steven
far from
Spielberg
this
is here.
Look at that. He's making a hobby hotline.
He is.
It's a sci-fi thriller.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a romance comedy kind of play. Oh well, a bromance.
Ken Golden's trying to get in it.
look at this guy.
Oh, do
Look
we
at
need
this
another
guy.
chair? We need another chair.
He's so small, he just levitates.
I think it's going to be 20 minutes just to get to the intro.
That's what I'm saying.
John, where do you want me to sit?
We'll set up a chair anywhere you want.
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Dude, what's up? See you. Always. So, if Brody doesn't mind, I will.
He said if you want to show any cards, the camera down by Rich.
I'm not sure.
No, neither am I, but I'm just passing it along.
Try to get between two people. Not like second row, kind of like we did last year.
Not like an awkward date.
Hey, we're gonna have to share like pass mics around. You know the drill. Hey, I might have said this already. You gotta get really close
Yeah, you
to this
gotta
mic.
make close
You
to
almost
the mic.
gotta swallow it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you gotta really get in there for that thing.
Are your microphones all on, guys? Just make sure you're
Yep,
all on.
I just checked.
You did?
Hello. Testing.
I'm here for the Myers wedding. Is this the Myers wedding?
Yeah, let's go and then we'll just. I saw Dr. Beckett this morning, like on a prowl, man. That guy was focused here. I mean, he had that, card
have
show
everybody here.
rhythm going. I never seen him so focused, so energetic.
Dr. Beck's not coming.
Oh, he's not.
He wants to stay.
Chris?
All right, everybody, welcome to the National. You guys having a good time today here in Chicago? You finding everything that you need today? Well, happy Saturday, guys, because we got a great one for you today. The Hobby Hotline. Give it up for these gentlemen.
All right, good morning. Thanks for coming out. Next to the last day of the show here. My name's John Newman, the host of Sports Card Nation podcast. But the Motley crew you see up here is a show called Hobby Hotline. We are live Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We are an interactive video podcast. People can call in, come on the show, and chat with us. We have 17 people as part of that show. They're not all here. I think we have 9 or 10 that are here that I'm going to have these gentlemen introduce themselves here shortly. We're also live Tuesday nights on the first Tuesday of every month at 9 p.m. We've been blessed to do the main stage now. I think this is our third year, guys, third or fourth year. I'm losing count. So with that being said, I want to thank the powers that be, the National Rip and Wax, for allowing us a little time to be up here. So I think we'll start with Rich there. Have each person introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Rich. Good morning. My name is Rich Klein. I'm older than dirt. And hey, yes, I am. It's good to see you, Rob. And I used to write for GTS, and I appreciate everything they do for us with this. And I've been in the hobby. I did my first show in 1979. And as John Newman wrote in his fine article on Sports Collectors Digest, he just calls me a hobby guru. I just call myself an old guy.
I'm Brody the Kid. I have been at the National for 6 years. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I film the Daily Rip. I do a web show, Hobby Life show. And yeah, I'm in my home grounds here in Chicago, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm doing a charity auction for Signatures for Soldiers at Pristine Auction, which has been a lot of fun. And a little shameless plug, make sure you check that out. Very awesome, great cause right there.
Hello, I'm Danny Black, and I founded Hobby News Daily, and I am, I guess, heading into 2 years now with Hobby Hotline, my second year.
I'm Chris Harris. You may know me as the guy who does BaseballCardpedia.com. I also write for Hobby News Daily. I'm on Twitter. People know me. Let's put it that way.
You're kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I have many leather-bound books full of paged cards, and my apartment smells of rich UV coating.
Yeah, he's kind of a big deal. I'm Logan Ward, and we do a weekly NASCAR podcast. I do it with my bestie, Val Mars, who's out in the crowd. But we do it's called NASCAR Radio. Of course, I do Hobby Hotline with all of my esteemed colleagues here. And you can find me on Twitter mostly, some Instagram, King NASCAR.
What's going on, guys? My name is Drew, host of Let Me Get That Potograph. Also, obviously, part of Hobby Hotline, write for Hobby News Daily, work with Gym Mint, Wax Pack Nation, and a bunch of other companies in the hobby. Just a really big hobby nerd.
Let's try it. Does this work? I don't think it's working. Okay, so I'm going to
Use this.
What's up, everybody? My name's Adam. I'm from Heroes for Sale. You can pretty much find me on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, anywhere you can search Heroes for Sale. This is my first time on the main stage, so I want to thank everybody here at Hobby Hotline, which this is, a ton of fun. I'm really excited to get this going with everybody, and excited for everybody to, hope everybody's having a fun time at the National. This is my third time here in Chicago. Really exciting.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike. My YouTube channel is Junk Wax Hero. This is my first time in Chicago, my second national, and really excited to be here.
And Victor Roman, it can be found at YouTube or podcasts of your choice at Victor the Rookie Card Specialist.
All right, guys. I think we got it. Did we miss anybody? All right.
I think we got it.
So, like I said, not everyone's here. We have 17 people as part of this show, and it's we have our ups and downs, but we have a lot of fun. And let's start out here. The National this year, gentlemen, added 200,000 square feet. I think most of us have been to a Chicago National prior to the expansion. Whoever wants to go, just some kind of thoughts. As we kind of get ready to close out the show, what your thoughts on the National this year?
It's really big. I mean, we've been to Chicago before, and they announced, that they're going to expand it, but I don't think I ever put it visually in my head. I just took the number and kind of thought, oh yeah, it's going to be a little bit bigger. No, it's huge this year. I never really, thought about it visually, so that's been my biggest takeaways. It's just big. I know I haven't touched half of the floor.
Yeah, I feel bad for someone that comes just for a day. You're not. I mean, I'm here for 5 days, and I know I'm not even going to cover everything. I'm going to try. Today's my last day, but I know I'm not going to see everything. Anyone else? Your kind of thoughts?
Just a question for the panel. Has the National gotten a little too big? No.
Chris, to answer your question, this is 40 years since I've first been to a Chicago National. The first National I ever went to was Chicago at a hotel with 276 tables in 1983. And I wrote about it in Hobby News Daily recently, and I've written about it in Sports Collectors Daily on my columns when I had Rich's Ramblings. And I will tell you that none of us envisioned in 1983 what it's like today. I mean, there was no internet. There was panel discussions like this. But, you know, we didn't anticipate that we'd have worldwide audiences with people taping and reading. And I've never seen and I went to the 91 National, I've never seen so many people at a show. This is just off the charts. And thank goodness the air conditioning is working today.
But what I mean by it being too big is, first of all, you can't possibly see everything, even in 5 days. And second of all, it is hot as you know what in here, and stinky, and humid. And when I went home yesterday, I was just drenched in sweat. I mean, this is not a very comfortable experience for a lot of people. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they can crack a window open or turn the air conditioner on, but yeah.
Well, Rich, if it's stinky, you're hanging out with the wrong people. That's your first mistake.
To be fair, we are hanging out with other card collectors, so.
I will say this, Wednesday or Thursday, it seemed hotter in here than yesterday and today. So, you know, credit where credit's due. I don't know if they paid an electrician or something to come out and turn something on, but it's been better the last couple days.
Can I answer a question, or
Sure.
are we still doing the weather segment?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We'll have traffic on the 9s. I think, to answer the original question, I think the layout is kind of challenging to get around more than the overall size. I think just finding some of the booths and finding some of the areas has been challenging. But I think from a vibe, from an excitement, I think this is by far the best national I can remember going to for the amount of people and the energy in the building. I don't know if you're feeling that vibe also.
Yeah, I mean, there are like two different sets of aisles. Like you have aisles going that way, you got aisles going this way. But isn't it crazy to think that last time we were on the main stage here, that Ripping Wax sign, that was the main stage we were on. Like it was right there. Now there's a whole corporate area and vendors over there. Like that's kind of crazy to think about. That's how much it's expanded.
What I want to know, Brody, is you're 16 and this is your 20th national. How does that work?
Well, I'm only 15, so.
Well, see, now the math is even harder.
Hey, John.
Well, you know, I thought, you know, with it being a bigger national, that we would have more room to walk around. But I think the crowd has, you know, grown exponentially along with the size of the convention. So, not a lot of room, especially yesterday and I guess Thursday and Friday. Yesterday was Friday. Hold on, my days are melting together.
Hey, John, I wanted to share.
Yeah, I actually talked with somebody at Heritage, a friend of mine, and he told me that it's pretty much official that the attendance here is going to break the Anaheim record. So that's what I heard.
Everyone gets a T-shirt. I attended the record-breaking national. Now, I got to say, obviously you talk to someone that probably knows Logan. It doesn't feel that. Like, it's obviously there's a big crowd. If you would have asked me, do you think this is an attendance breaker? Well, number one, I wasn't in Anaheim, so I can't compare. But it doesn't feel like that. So maybe that additional space sort of opened it up a little bit more. Anybody agree or disagree?
Hey, John, I didn't catch that question, but I did want to share something real quick. Building to the side, I feel like this is the best location for the National, only because, I say that because it seems like this entire village is designed, logistically speaking, to be to curtail to this type of event. Everything from the airport to the hotels to the restaurants to just this entire building. Now we can bring this building in, and the building is just absolutely phenomenal this year. Just biggest card show I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, definitely the biggest card show, right? for an old guy like me, it's not an exact rectangle, so I need like a lost kid tag because I wind up in like, how did I get here and how do I get there? I don't even know where to go. So, that can create a little, but that's more on me than.
I think that's Mike's fault.
So, what do we think? We all collect cards, obviously, on this stage. We all try and do a little shopping. What do we think about where the pricing is for this show?
I'll go on that. I think the pricing has been surprisingly good this year. After last year, where I think that a lot of dealers were stuck in the 2021 prices and hadn't quite accepted the prices were coming down. This year, I find dealers have reasonable prices and are still willing to negotiate, and it's been really nice.
Yeah, I have been able to pick up a lot of good cards. Dealers have been very willing to work with me and give me very good prices. So I agree, it's a lot better this year than it was last year.
I think it's been a lot dealer by dealer, but overall, I think the vintage dealers are moving, like Mike said, a lot more now than they were a year ago. So I definitely think it's been a better shopping experience. I've gotten 2 out of the 3 cards I wanted, and I'm happy so far. So.
Well, I'm going home with full suitcases, and other than one card I bought for charity, not one card has cost me more than 50 cents, and there's been no shortage of value boxes to buy from. Actually, I should say that. Actually, I bought some dollar cards from the Singles Club today, so I finally went to the dollar level. But there's plenty of cards at every price point. You can buy dime cards. You can buy $1,000 cards. There was a gentleman who was with me when I was sitting in the Singles Club this morning. And this morning he says, I'm down to these now. He bought a bench rookie and an Ernie Banks rookie this morning in PSA holders. Like, okay, now I'm done. And this is on Saturday, and he was very happy with the prices. So there's no doubt that there's good prices still available. Saturday morning, there are so many tables here. Brody, I had a heck of a time trying to find your booth.
Yeah, my booth is right over there, too, if you want to come check it out. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun, and if you know me, I like ripping wax, and the price on wax has been good, especially I love ripping wrestling, and wrestling's been pretty cheap here, and it's been good. And I've picked up some cards, and they've been good, too. And I agree with you, Rich. There's something for everybody. Singles Club, great booth. Just say that for sure. And there's lots of great booths for wax.
Can I ask everybody a question? Does it feel like we're seeing more non-main sports at this national than ever before?
No, there's been a ton more. I know at least over at the Gem Mint table where we've been taking submissions in, we've taken in a ton of TCG, Pokemon, Magic, all that stuff. I mean, not as much as like a typical, like a Collecticon or something, but a ton more. And then on the floor, I've seen quite a bit. I mean, quite a bit of stuff that a lot of my friends have been picking up. So yeah, I'd say there's a pretty big increase in it actually. And not just TCG. I mean, outside of that, you've got a lot of, even if it's artists, a lot of artwork and stuff like that, a lot of the card artists, and then you've got tons of, Ginter type stuff and just the non-sports stuff. But yeah, major uptick at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of non-sports as well. And as a matter of fact, there was a guy that had some racing, of course, but then he had some non-sports, and I was looking through it, and I know this is going to sound a little strange, but I ended up buying a Cher rookie card. Cher.
What is it? What year?
It's a sticker, 1966. Huh? He had one with Sonny and Cher, but I just wanted to get the Cher. And I'm gonna get it. It's raw, but it's really nice, and I'm gonna get it graded. So yeah, it was an impulse buy for sure. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of soccer on the floor, especially Panini Prism, Panini Chrome stock stuff. In 4 days, I have seen one dealer with Formula One cards. So I guess we can say that that's over with now, F1. Have we woken up to the realization that it's a pretty boring sport to watch? Whoever gets the first corner wins. Yes. Nah.
You know, so it's a little. This
Yeah,
is
I would
maybe a
agree
little
with
bit-
what he said.
How dare you? Unbelievable, Logan. No, go ahead.
Anyway, I was going to say, yeah, I agree with Chris. I haven't seen a whole lot. Val and I have been looking. We haven't seen very much. In fact, I think Chris, can I quote you on this? Chris said he's seen more WNBA than he has F1. So I think that speaks volumes for what we're seeing. And it's unfortunate, too, but I think that's just the reality that we live in right now.
Yeah, so I think as somebody that maybe focuses more on like media stuff, like creating content, for me, that's kind of why I come to shows like this. And I think, you know, all the guys that work here and everybody out there that's creating content, like, it's inspiring, in my opinion. I think, like, what the content that we're all creating is important for people to learn. And I think it's also important to kind of, like I said, inspire people who maybe want to create content that don't know how or want to get started and kind of, you know, I mean, I've met so many people and ran into so many people here at the show, and it's like I said, I keep using that word inspiring because that's how I feel, really, honestly, because it's just everybody is so nice, and that's kind of one of the other cool things, like coming to these shows is like you can say hi to people, you can meet your favorite creators who are creating content, or, you know, writing blogs, or do a hobby podcast, or do a YouTube show on Saturdays at 11 a.m. on Bench Clear Media, like Hobby Hotline. So, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't at least get this message out there that, like, you know, if you're looking to create content, there's so many opportunities to create a brand and create a platform. And, you know, I think it's inspiring for a group like us to get together because it's so hard to find people, I think, in my opinion, that all have the same sort of aspirations to have fun and create content. And yeah, so that's my main message of this show is just for anybody looking to do that kind of stuff. Just do it, because honestly, like, that's what I did and getting into it, and I didn't expect to be up on the main stage ever. And now, you know, third national, I'm up here on the main stage for the first time. It's really it's mind-blowing, to be completely honest. Like, it's really awesome.
The one thing I will say too, and it's nice to see, you know, when Topps did their Project 2020 and brought some sort of, you know, the artist space into the hobby space, you know, it blew up, and then a lot of people thought it would go away kind of as fast as it came in, and we're seeing it's not. A lot of these artists are here, they're participating in the hobby, and the companies are getting them involved, including some of the grading companies with grading some of their projects. So for those that thought, like, you know, card artists were just kind of a flash in the pan, and I've always said the cards themselves are little works of art. So I know, Drew, you probably have some thoughts on that.
Oh, no. No, I mean, yeah, the card art market's blown up. I know I spent a lot of time this weekend with someone you know, Card Killer, very well. But no, it's definitely here to stay. They're actively putting the art, and I like this about that, they're actively putting the artist's name in association with the project. They're no longer hidden in a little made by on the back of the card. They're actually putting the projects out together, giving those people the recognition I think they deserve and that they haven't gotten in the past. And it's also inspiring, I think, those artists to make different work. I know a lot of people, I have a friend of mine who's got stuff coming out in Topps this year who has never done card art, never done anything like that in her life, but they saw her stuff, they liked it. She's starting to work with Topps now in the next year. So it's definitely a space that's expanding, but the thing I like the most is they're finally putting focus on the artist, because you always had the cards, but you never knew who made them, who drew them, and now that can be a focal point, especially in someone like Andy Friedman's case. That's the focal point of some of his sets, or actual curated sets by him. So I love it.
You do realize in the 50s and 60s, the most famous comic book artists were doing cards for Topps. And as you said, none of them were getting credit. And, you know, for them, it was just making extra money, which is fine. I'm all in favor of it. But now, you know, and they did little things like 53 Topps. There's some cards that they may have written Topps in the background, and they did other things. And 53 Topps is all art. But the backs of like a 62 Topps, a 63 Topps, 61 Topps, with all the artwork, those people are the famous, they're the Jack Kirbys of the world. And they never got credit. They did get paid, but they didn't get paid the way they do today. And as Drew says, it's a good thing. We're crediting artists. In fact, I picked up some of the cards I picked up today at the Singles Club were the Upper Deck Fanmation cards, and they were $1 each. I said, I don't know what they book at, but I said, those cards are so cool, I'm buying them. You know, I've had them before, I'll have them again, but I said those were cards I needed to pick up today.
The sad part, Rich, with some of those early 50s and 60s artists is no one knows who they are. No one knows their names, and to this day, which is crazy.
Well, in New York, Jerry Dvorak, who was one of the artists on the 53 set, used to set up at all the card shows, and in retrospect, I should have bought a lot of his stuff in those days. You know, this is one of those things, crystal ball, idiot me, not realizing how special they were.
So, you know, there's some content creators that like to say the hobby's dying or the hobby's dead. I don't know if they're here today or have been here this week, but I think it's obvious. You know, maybe we're in a different level when we come to the market and price-wise, but there's a lot of millions of people active worldwide in the hobby. So, you know, the hobby is dead. The Chicken Little stuff, that's exactly what it is. I don't know if anyone wants to kind of tag on top of that.
Well, I kind of, with that argument, one thing I can't stand is when I hear that, because if you look at a show like this, it just proves it's not. Like, I mean, just because card prices on some things like a modern market might be down has no bearing on how the hobby in a whole is. People want to take it as, okay, if all this market's down, the hobby's got to be struggling. No, it doesn't. It's a collecting-based industry. Not everything is just about the money. And so, yes, I mean, obviously a lot of it is, look around, but it's not all about that. And so, I mean, you can't go to an event like this, I don't think, and see, I mean, more companies are putting more money into their stuff, working harder than ever before, and the vibe is absolutely excellent. So, I mean, sure, the market might be down some on some of your favorite cards, but in no way do I think that equates to a dying hobby.
I think we here on YouTube are seeing some people who got into the hobby in 2020 because of investments are leaving YouTube and no longer investing in cards. And so we see, oh no, is everything dying? But it's just getting back to more of a collecting atmosphere and less of the investment.
I would like to pose the question to the people, to the folks who are actually here. Is the hobby dead? No.
Victor working the crowd. But listen, think about this show, right? And how many people, if this breaks the Anaheim 91 record, right? Sure, there's some local people like Victor and Brody, right? But a lot of people, you know, probably a high percentage of people have traveled here. Expenses, flights, gas, lodging, but before they even buy a card. So that tells you where the hobby is. I think even more than the transactions themselves.
Yeah, I think honestly too, the narrative or the hobby is dead, whatever. Like it's such a whenever you see it online, you just roll your eyes because like doing content and doing all that type of stuff, like people have been saying that since like 2018, 2019. It's like we saw what happened after that. We are, you know, all you have to do is come to a show like this and you see how many people are here. It's just like it is a little bit ridiculous, and you know I think it's maybe more getting to a little bit of a healthier medium for the market if that's something that you're into. You know, it's not, cards aren't going up and down 50% in a week, which is, I mean, that's a lot healthier of a market, in my opinion. So from that perspective, yeah, that saying or whatever is just, it's ridiculous, but it's always going to be something that's going to be around. So, if you like doing the hobby, it's not dead. That's basically kind of that's even maybe my last thought about that. It's just like, if you enjoy doing it, just don't even worry about what other people are saying about it, to be honest.
I want to piggyback on that because I couldn't agree more. I think the way you hobby and what you want to do is totally separate. That's part of the hobby. It's not just the dollars. It's the relationships, it's the friendships, it's seeing people you don't get to see. That's part of the hobby, and that's what makes it strong. So getting to see, you guys and getting to see other people and relationships, that's all needs to be baked into the cake when we evaluate the hobby. If we're only looking at the hobby as a financial sheet, we're cheating ourselves and we're cheating the hobby and what we're doing.
Go ahead,
I
Rich.
also want to go in a slightly different direction. We're talking about how the hobby's not dying. Think about this for a second. The Brogy family, the Burkus family, this is their last year running the National. They could have just said, we'll walk it in. We're not going to do any work to promote it. I don't know. I think they've done a pretty good job instead of just mailing it in. I think they've done a darn good job getting people out, and I know the Joe Drellick and Jimmy Ryan and their teams are going to do a great job next year. But you got to give the Brogy and the Burkus family credit. They've done one heck of a job this year. If this is the way to go out, it's one heck of a swan song. It's like Ted Williams hitting the homer in his last at bat in 1960.
As long as there are Homo sapiens populating this planet, we will be collecting something. It's what Jefferson Burdick called the collector's gene. We all have it. And as long as we have something to collect, we will collect, in spite of the people running the hobby, I think.
So in my travels around the show floor, a lot of first-time national people. This is my first national. I think that also says something about where the hobby is, the strength of the hobby, that a lot of people are coming out for the first time, along with a lot of us who are here again. And every year there's going to be, more first-time folks. For all of us up here, a question I get asked a lot is for someone new coming in the hobby. John, any advice as a new collector, someone up here want to share kind of how they would answer that question?
Yeah, I think, honestly, when I get asked that question, I get a similar question to John there. Like, just start small. Like, you don't have to go into buying $1,000 cards or even $100 cards. Like, you could come to a show like this, or you could go to any show. Dr. Beckett, someone who was also on the show, he literally just goes to the singles club and just pulls out dollar cards, like hundreds and hundreds per hour, because he's just, that's what he likes doing, and that's what I think one of the great parts about this hobby is that you could do it that way. You can go to eBay, you can buy lots, you can go to shows, you can buy into breaks if you want to do that. You can maybe even try and start your own breaks. There's just so many different ways to do it. So like, if you're getting into it and you're a new collector, or you're investing or trying to flip cards, like just starting small and not going over your head when it comes to what like don't try to if you know a lot about baseball, don't try and get into football, or if you know a lot about basketball, don't just try and do soccer because you saw someone talking about soccer. It is fun to learn about those things. I mean, from my perspective, I think that's one thing that I really enjoy about this hobby is that there's just always something new to learn. And from when I'm learning something new, I like sharing the information. So like if you find people that are doing that, help them out and share their stuff all over the social media, stuff like that. But just starting small, that's basically my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'll have to add to that. I will say collect what you love. I mean, I collect a very niche sport, collecting NASCAR, some Formula One, some Indy, but I love it. I watch it every week. I watch all the races. And my collecting goes hand in hand with that. So I would say, hey, just collect what you love.
And Adam makes a great point as well. Great point too, Logan. Every car doesn't have to be expensive. You can get some steals and deals in those bargain boxes. The Singles Club, which is actually the 50 Cent Club this year. And, I'm seeing a lot more younger people even getting into vintage, which really makes me feel good. And I get asked that question from a younger set, like, how do I get into vintage? There's some of the stuff's expensive. Well, if you don't mind starting out with buy raw cards first, right, before you make the jump, or buy raw cards and then grade them yourself as well. So there's just so many angles and ways to enjoy the hobby.
I think it's also important to remember to ask questions. Ask questions to friends, dealers, people that have collected. It doesn't matter, if they're older or younger. Ask a question. This community is very, very, very welcoming, and people, trust me, will love to give you an answer if you ask.
Yeah, and overall, I would answer that question by just simply saying to just have fun. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things in the hobby, when the bottom line is this should all boil down to having fun. And yes, there's going to be seasons where you like something and then you'll pivot into something else. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So long as we're having fun. It's not so much the value of things, but the personal value that item has to you is ultimately most important, in my opinion.
Brody, I keep making you older than you are. You're actually 15. I mean, your advice to kids your age, right? When they ask you, like, how do I do what you do, or how do I get more involved in the hobby?
Well, I think Eddie mentioned it. Ask questions, and I think asking questions is a great thing you could do. And I think just walking around the National and seeing especially things that companies are doing, like Topps and Panini, and Wild Card's got a great free wheel that they're doing, Upper Deck, and just seeing what the companies are putting out. A lot of, I know Steel City has been doing free kids breaks, and you could just get involved in so many ways.
The other thing, guys, that I've noticed this year with this year's National, a lot of new hobby companies, upstarts. Some I never even heard of till I saw their displays here. Hate to say this, but a lot of them are doing similar things. My gut feeling is like they're not all going to make it. I'm not rooting against anybody personally, but this is also a copycat hobby, copycat industry. I hope they all make it, but I just my gut feeling says some of these we may not see here next year.
So about 20 years ago, turn of the century, I had a job with a Silicon Valley startup. They flew me out to San Francisco. I lived in a hotel for a month while learning their software, and about 3 months later they were acquired by, I think it was Oracle. And just being in Silicon Valley in that era, you had all these startups, and the business plan seemed to me and to a lot of people was not actually turn a profit or make anything, but to be acquired by a larger company, cash out and bro down, as Eric Cartman once said. And I kind of feel the same way with a lot of these companies that are here. They do a lot of the same things. I don't know how they're profitable, or even if they want to be profitable, and maybe the whole goal is to cash out and bro down. So I'm curious to see just how large that area of the room to our right is going to be 2 years from now. When has that been announced yet? 2025 is coming back here or not? Yeah, it's going to be back here in 21. How many of these companies are back?
I think the one thing that I've been most impressed by at the show is honestly the corporate booths over there are just, it's like you're walking through a museum. And that's one thing that I'm hoping that we start to see potentially over the next few years are like sports card museums, because some of these cards are very similar to like modern art or classic art, and there's just figuring out the way to display them is sort of where I think there's maybe a disconnect. But I think, for example, like the Golden Booth, they were just like, hey, let's set up a basketball court and let's play our show from Netflix on this big 60-foot screen. It's like, it's actually super impressive. When I first walked in on like Tuesday, and then when I got, Wednesday on the sneak peek, I mean, I was blown away, honestly, by all the setups of everybody and just how much cool stuff there is just to even look. Because that's kind of the other thing too for me, is like, I'm not necessarily buying as much probably as other people at the show, but like the seeing these historic pieces of artwork that I consider them artwork, because that's, I come from a graphic design background, so the cards and the art is really, it's really impressive to see what they've been able to achieve and what they've been able to build at, such a show like this, and seeing the difference between when I came in 2019 and then when he came in 2021. Like 2021, the stage was right over there. Like this was the stage and this was it. It's just really impressive, honestly, in my opinion, everything that all the corporate companies have been able to do, like in that main section, over, with just not even with all the companies and all the corporate stuff over there.
I say this every year. I got to say it again this year too, guys, and I'm sure you're seeing the same thing. A lot of families, a lot of women. The hobby's getting more inclusive, more diverse, and I think that's very, very important. And we're seeing it more every year, and I enjoy seeing that. Anyone want to chime in, agree, and your thoughts? And we let Canadians in. There's Jeremy Lee passing, but and David Wright. So, and we're seeing, there's people here at the National, guys, that have traveled, and not just from Canada, but overseas to attend this event. And so, and Dylan from Hawaii, there you go. But but we're seeing a lot of moms and kids and just everything, and that's what it should be about. And we're seeing more every year. Just that the amount we're seeing is going up.
Yeah, I mean, I've followed, women's sports throughout my time in the hobby too, and it's again, I keep using these same words, impressive to see what the women in the hobby are being able to do, and the growth in all of the women's sports like WNBA. I mean, we got the Women's World Cup going on. USA, they're obviously going to be making it to the next round. We'll see how they do in this next game, and then into the knockout stage and stuff like that. But it's really cool to see all the stuff they've been able to do, and kind of the growth of that industry just in general, because as much as we love all of the the four major sports in America, there are also some of those sports are available for females to become pro. So WNBA, for example, like it's great to see how much growth there's been, and we've got a couple great players. Like I think Angel Reese is actually at the show, right? She was at the booth over there doing a meet and greet. Yeah, so I mean, it's really it's impressive to see the names that are coming into the sport, with NIL and all that kind of stuff. So it is really cool to see, like John was saying.
I know we chopped this next kind of subject up on the show itself, but not everyone has kind of chimed in. Fanatics has announced recently they're getting into the show business and doing some live events. My thoughts is I hope they don't really try to do their own national necessarily and kind of compete and maybe take the luster off an event like this, but they're not caring what I'm thinking or saying. But what do you think about that recent announcements, and what are your thoughts? What might we see from that?
What was the question?
Well, Fanatics.
Right. I disagree with you on this one. We've talked about it. I think that the competition on the shows is actually going to be good. I think it'll force each show to figure out what the consumers want, as opposed to giving us one show to attend and take what's given. I mean, at a show like this, they might let anybody in here, and you need to filter out some of the riffraff, and that might happen at a Fanatics show.
Well, my thing is, are we going to see a national in Chicago and then a fanatical in St. Louis at the same time, sort of like trying to compete against each other.
Who wants to go to St. Louis? That's worse than Atlantic City.
No, it's not. St. Louis is a really good place for the National. They have a good downtown.
I can say that because I'm from South Jersey, all right?
All right. But in all seriousness, one of the things is Fanatics has a totally different base than we do as a hobby. And if they can do, and I'm going to call it like fan fests, and if that's the way they run the show, they have a lot of athletes they can get. They have a lot of other people they can get. Remember, their goal is to grow the hobby because they spend a lot of money to do everything. So anything they do that grows the hobby will help this show as well. So I think some of those fears may be a bit overwrought. I'm excited to see what Fanatics will do because I think if they do it like a fan fest brings in thousands of non-collectors, but there is a collector element. If we can do the same thing, I was chatting with the gentleman who leads the Society of American Baseball Research Baseball Card Committee yesterday, Jason. And Jason says there's about 7,000 people in Sabre, and about 10% of them that actually know are members of the Baseball Card Committee, but the number should be higher because not everybody joined when there was such an option. Think about it. If a fanatical show draws 100,000 people and 10%, which is all I want, may not be hobbyists and say, I like collecting, that's 10,000 more people for a show like this. And who the heck would complain about 10,000 more people?
Chris Harris. Yeah, and I don't disagree, Rich. And speaking of the National, next year, Cleveland, 2025, we're back here. 2026 will be announced soon. It's going to be either Atlanta, Atlantic City, or Chicago again. I guess I'll ask everyone on the panel, who do you want to win the 2026?
Atlantic City.
Anybody but AC.
Atlanta.
Atlantic City. I thought that the location was good. I know this isn't a popular opinion. I also thought there was a lot more space between tables to move around last year.
I'm a Chicago guy all the way, man. This is the perfect place. Come on.
I could be selfish and say Atlantic City because I can drive there. But I'd like to see, I don't think it's going to win, to be honest with you, from what I'm hearing. But Atlanta, I know it's been there before. I've never been there for a national. It'd be nice to get a southern national.
Well, Culture Collision does a really good job setting up their events in Atlanta. And as someone who's able to drive to those events, they'd be able to host a really good one. So I'd actually like to see it in Atlanta, but that's kind of also selfishly because I could drive there. So,
do you think, and I know about Culture Collision, Drew, do you think that's why maybe Atlanta won't get one and won't win one?
Quite possibly. Yeah, but I think that's why a lot of people are confused on why they're considered, I think, a finalist. A lot of people were shocked to see that name on there. I also think that's why they're on there. It's because they've proven that they can host a really big event type of show and that there is a following. People will travel to it. People will set up at it. And so I could easily see Atlanta being done.
But isn't this also an opportunity if we're talking about the Fanatics events? Where do they put theirs? They can fill a lot of these holes that we want big events, in Atlanta or in Baltimore or in Memphis. The Fanatics can fill some of these holes.
Well, I think going back to the Fanatics event thing, I do think that they're going to be a lot more than one. I work all the Collecticons, which is a traveling TCG type of show, and that's really what I see Fanatics doing with these events, is having a traveling show that's going to hit major cities. Collecticon does, I think, 7 this year. They're up to 9 next year. That's the model I see Fanatics doing. Plus, they've partnered with IMG, which was formerly with Collectible for the Mint. So I think they probably have one major event like the Mint, and then have everything else being a traveling micro version of that.
Okay, so my buddy Don, he's like he's a data guy, geocoder guy. He did a thing where the number of people who live within 250 miles of recent and proposed national sites. Chicago is 26.7 million. Cleveland is 24.4 million. Atlanta's a little over 25 million. Dallas, which has been proposed as another NSCC site, is a little under 23 million. How many of you want to guess how many people live within 250 miles of Atlantic City? We'll do this Price is Right style. That's close. Lower, though. Lower. Okay, it's 49.8 million. And that's why we're going back to Atlantic City. Yeah.
You know, I also don't think it's necessarily like a zero-sum game here with these shows. Like, I think sure, maybe if there's more shows, people may have to pick and choose. But, like, overall, you look at how many people here, if it decreases by 10%, 15% because people are going to other shows, like, I don't really think that affects dealers necessarily, because the dealers are coming here and they're spending the money to make money here at the show. So I think all the dealers will still be going. And, you know, you look at, like, you know, PAX East, like those types of companies, like Comic-Con, like I think Drew was saying. I just think that, you know, if there are more shows, I don't think they'll be the same. Like, I think if Fanatics puts on some sort of different type of show, it's not going to be like this. It'll maybe be more like the middle, where it's like museum type stuff, where sure, maybe there'll be dealers and stuff like that, but it's going to be more catered to somebody who's trying to go to a museum or an event rather than maybe a card show.
Chris apparently has called the election in favor of Atlantic City, so apparently the votes are in. But you know, it's been attested to that Atlantic City has offered every dealer $1,000 to vote for them, and if they set up, they will get that. Anyone kind of not like that, or think that's sort of, you know, a bribe in a sense?
Well, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I don't really need to expand on that. Yes.
I mean, cities do this all the time to attract big events like Super Bowls, Final Fours, the Olympics. They offer tax breaks, subsidies. So
I think that speaks to the volume of the value of what the national is.
I think that speaks to what this event has become, that cities are willing to dump corporate welfare into hosting it. It's not good for the taxpayer, by the way.
So
but it is what it is.
The village of Rosemont here can offer $1,100 per to cover table costs. Are we going to get into a bidding war now, or what's going on?
Yeah, I think Chris actually just made a good point with, like, the economy within these cities and towns. Like, you just, for example, and I'm not comparing this to Taylor Swift concert, but like there was articles that were coming out about Taylor Swift, and he just was, or she was, when she would come to a town, it would just, what? Oh, too close? Okay. Well, I don't know what everyone just heard, but I was comparing the National to a Taylor Swift concert potentially. But the economies within those cities where Taylor Swift is going, it just booms. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's something similar with shows like us. I don't know, maybe.
We got a little time left. I can go down in the audience. Does anyone want to ask the panel any questions? Is that something anyone's interested in? All right, hang on. I'm coming. I'm old, so I'll see you in about 2 hours.
That's a problem.
All right, this is the Big O. I remember him. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Having a very good national so far. If you were to pick any city not currently in the running to host another national, what would it be and why?
So he asked, other than the cities that are on the list, what city would you like to see host the national?
If logistics didn't matter, New York City.
Somewhere in Hawaii.
Yes.
Milton,
Hawaii.
Delaware.
I would have to pick Nashville, Tennessee. That city is growing like a weed. The last time that I drove through there, I saw, I think, 20-something cranes building new buildings. Unfortunately, the interstate infrastructure cannot handle the traffic, but that place is really growing. I would love to see it there.
Because I'm from Boston potentially. I don't know anybody. Yeah, appreciate it, everybody. Well, maybe not Boston.
I'll second Danny's New York City. I'm a New York City kid. I'm in Syracuse now. It's only 250 miles away. But if I take out the bias, I'd like to see Seattle, a West Coast. It might cost me more money to get there, but I'd like to see someplace like Seattle host the national, or a city in California.
Out of the nationals I've been to, and I'm only somewhere in the 30s, some of the best logistical places, Chicago, the Rosemont is a great logistical place. My opinion only, the best place for the national in the country. However, we do need to travel. So having said that, I like the idea of Rosemont every other year. Baltimore had a really good infrastructure. Yes, Danny, I know you're from Baltimore. I know that would say you can drive home each night. Baltimore, St. Louis had a really good infrastructure. My good friend, hobby friend, Rob Veras is running a 800-card show at the Anaheim Convention Center Labor Day weekend. I will tell you that Anaheim, logistically, just in terms of an attendee, is a good place to go. They may not get a lot of dealers wanting to go there because most of them may not want to drive or truck, but logistically, Anaheim is a great place for a show. And so those 4 locations are my favorite locations in terms of logistics. Atlanta is an improving hobby area. I would love for us to be there. I went to the ones in the 90s. They were not that good, to be honest. But Atlanta has grown so much, as Drew mentioned, as a collecting hotbed. And I think I read where there are 6,000 hotel rooms within like 4 blocks of the show. In Atlanta, they've got plenty of hotel rooms. It's accessible. You don't have to change planes at the Atlanta airport, so you can get there directly. And I'm a big fan of trying new areas. But so those are all logistically good places to go. But you're right, we want to, and trust me, everybody's looked. Do we want to run like a mini national? Do we want to run regional nationals? All this has been under discussion for years. This is not a new, this is, as the old saying goes, it's not new under the sun. We've been here.
Rich, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. We got new leadership taking over next year. You know a lot of the powers that be.
I know the old leadership. I know people in the new leadership. So, yeah, we can talk.
Do you think that with this new leadership, some of what you just said, new venues, are going to be on the table?
They may look at things with a new eye, and I'm all in favor of that. You know, Joe and Jimmy, Jimmy runs like the shows in the New York metropolitan area, great shows. Joe Drellick runs what originally started as the Willow Grove show. We now call it the Philly show. He and his team run the Chantilly show. They do a really good job with that. They're used to running big shows. This is a stretch, but it's not going to be a super stretch. And they will continue to look for new areas to run things. So, yes, there's nothing wrong with what was, but there's nothing wrong with what will be either.
I had a question for Brody, actually. And I was wondering, in all the nationals you've gone to, what about the venue or the city makes it appealing for you to have a good national? Is it the convenience? I know you have a lot of obligations. Is it getting around?
I love good carpets. The Cleveland was awesome. I love their attire with the good carpets, and actually I loved Cleveland too because in the middle with the Ferris wheel, it was really eye appealing. It looked really nice. Here in Chicago, I mean, it's obviously nice for me, but I mean, there's a lot of rock floor. It doesn't look great.
Brody loves good carpets and he cannot lie. That's his new single coming out on his upcoming rap album. Any other questions? Anyone want to ask anything? No? All right.
Come on, it's national. What do you want to talk about?
All right, here we go.
Was that Cody Rhodes?
So, for someone coming for the first time ever and leveraging into this marketplace, dabbling, continue with any advice as well as any up-and-coming projects. I saw Card Sears. I got to talk with Evan Mathis about his project and shit. I feel as if, without knowing much, it's changing trading online. What do you guys think about that? Where's your advice as far as getting into projects like that?
Well, I mean, I think with oh, you got something down there now. Oh, what? Well, I think so. I think the question was, with new projects coming out, how do you like?
Sorry, I didn't talk into the microphone well enough. I got to talk with Evan Mathis about Card Sears and projects like that where it's not about trading and sports cards specifically. However, I feel as if for social media as well as security purposes online, it's going to change the face of online trading and being able to network and connect and know you're connecting with you guys or these people. So how do people getting into this learn about those platforms? What's your advice for getting into not just the card aspect and the trading, but looking where they can find those secure sources?
Well, I think one of the best ways is going to be a lot of our shows. I know when a lot of those projects come out, one was Ezra Levine's new project, Mascot. He did a lot of rounds on a lot of different shows. Myself, John's, I think a couple other people's.
And 50 other ones.
Right, yes, agreed. But, I mean, I think that's where is one of the best places to go, really. Outside of coming here where you can experience it firsthand. Other than that, I mean, I think that's probably going to be that's where they're going to promote it the most, but just following the right account on social media, being active and things like that. But it's all a learning curve with those. I think some of them are still learning as they make it.
So then for connecting online, is there an easy way for people listening to connect up with you guys? Is there like a list and stuff where we can go to, or how is that made easier for people?
Well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I kind of will. If you go to Hobby Hotline, at Hobby Hotline, you can connect with the show. Every one of them, up there has a Twitter or Instagram handle, and I can vouch for everyone that's part of Hobby Hotline. They're great at answering questions and helping folks in the hobby out. So that's why they're part of this. The other thing I'll add to Drew too is research some of these companies. Not just what they do, but who's involved. Who are the names involved with this group? And you'd be surprised when you do that, some of the things you may find out that may influence whether you want to do business or not with a group.
So I had a question about this Evan Mathis project. I don't know why I have this box cutter in my hand, but can you trade unaltered cards, or do they have to be trimmed, allegedly?
Yeah, and that's sort of what, you got to research who's involved and what they kind of stand for and that sort of thing. But, all right, you want to add something?
No.
All right, I think we're pretty close to time. I want to thank, obviously, first all these guys up here for being part of Hobby Hotline. Those Hobby Hotline that aren't here, like I said, we're 17 people involved in this show. Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. The first Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. And everyone that you see here can help you out, and it would be willing to do so. I want to thank everyone in the audience for not falling asleep, being here, and if you're listening to us later on in audio form, thank you as well. Panini's coming up with a panel with some special guests as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We don't exist without people like you.
Hey, no, I keep up with all the content. I listen to your individual shows and so keep it up.
Yeah. You want to come up?
No, I can get it there.
I run this site. There's about 20 writers on there. It's a great resource to find traffic.
Brody, stand
So we got one mic for every two guys. Basically. Yeah, we can put it. They pick up pretty good. I'll make you a freestyle if you want to. Yeah. What kind of stuff? You gonna do in the style of Big Boy? Yeah, we'll do that. Because of tonight? Somebody's gonna be by me. Yeah, I will. Put it right there. I like to dance. It's our kid's doctor. Seats. Am I getting right here? Get it, Doug. Yeah, you're right here, Doug. Yeah. Get it, Doug.
Dougie Fresh.
On the ones and twos, six minutes, I think we're on, right?
Yes, Dougie Fresh.
I'm nervous.
This is one motley crew up here. Mr. Tracy Hackler. Love this guy. You guys are in for a rare treat. So Panini and many more, some of the key breakers in the industry. Kevin Hake from Panini, Doug Caskey, Chris Keller, Rich Layton, Gavin, Ultimate Box Breaks, and many more. So enjoy, guys.
Rob Bertrand, thank you for that glorious introduction. What a beautiful crowd we're looking at here. Thank y'all for being here. So we have a 2-hour window, but we're not going to talk for 2 hours. The first hour will be a very engaging, compelling, riveting discussion about the early days of box breaking and how it's developed since then. And then the second hour will be UBB's Brian Gavin doing a 3-2 baseball free kids case break. Yeah. But let me just go around. So the idea behind this panel and why you've watched all of these gentlemen numerous times, you know their faces, you know their names, you may know their stories, but you might not know how it all started. So I'm Tracy Hackler from Panini America. I want to introduce Kevin Hake, our Vice President of Sales, who's been with Panini America for quite a while. Yeah. And then the other guys around us probably need no introduction. I'll start down here at my far right. Chris Keller from Top Shelf Breaks. Rich Layton from Layton Sports Cards. Yeah. Michael Hodges from the Clubhouse. Oh. Doug Caskey, Dougie Fresh from Mojo Break. And then the far left, the ravishing, the good-looking Brian Gavin from Ultimate Box Breaks. All right, so the introduction, those guys needed no introduction, we know that. So the idea behind this panel was catching an early break and about how it all started, where it all started, when I think it's safe to say, and I'll start with Kevin, because I remember you and I talking in offices and in hallways about this whole new thing called breaking and what did it mean and they're going to kill the industry or whatever, like what's going to happen. Kind of go back to those early days and how you were approached about breaking when you knew it was going to be a big thing.
Well, yeah, we were talking about it in the building, right? This phenomenon, this wave was taking over the industry. And we had to make it a choice. Were we going to embrace it or run from it? And we chose to embrace it because what we looked at it as from a manufacturer's point of view was a more consistent barrier of entry for the collector to be able to collect what they want and whom they wanted at any time of the day, any day of the week, at any part of the country or world that they were in. Now, at the time, and we were looking at breakers as a whole, there was no pavilion. There was no, larger case break contingent. There was a couple guys who were embarking on this journey, and really we could see changing the hobby and the way that collectors collected and the way that product was consumed. And so we thought to ourselves, well, how do we try to leverage this opportunity that we see as the quote-unquote next big thing and utilize it to the entire industry's benefit? So that's really where the discussion started, and it has progressed all the way to the point where we are now, where we have a case break pavilion at the National for the last 8 years plus, and the majority of our product is now consumed in this fashion as opposed to the old buy a box individually and rip it yourself.
Absolutely, and just to get the early days perspective from those who've lived it and loved it and who've transformed the breaking business and in the process the entire industry, just go down the line with, let's start with Michael. Talk about those early days and kind of how you approached creating this new business.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, live video wasn't like an easy thing. So it was mostly about like connecting with people through a platform like YouTube, because of how early it was, so much of the growth of this segment was just organic. It was just like people going, "Oh, that's cool. I want to try that," and just slowly building out and educating the consumer on what we're even doing. Now everyone knows what breaking is, and it's finding the breaker you like. But back then it was so much just about connecting with people, educating them on what you're doing, and like letting the model do its thing organically, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Rich, what about you? This early day stories about launching your business, and was there trepidation involved in taking that leap?
So when I started, I was fortunate enough to have a few of the guys that are actually on the stage right now do things a little bit before I did. In 2012, when we first launched our website, you would pick a team in a break, and it actually wouldn't go out of stock. So I manually had to pull teams out of stock as orders came in. It was absolutely ludicrous. I learned a lot from Mr. Hodges and Doug and actually everybody here at Chris, and I still do to this day. But in the beginning, it was kind of the Wild West. We were on Blog TV, which most people sitting here have no idea what that even is.
Blog TV. Yeah.
And it was it looked like a Brady Bunch kind of layout, and we were all there in one spot, and it was a lot of trial and error. Since then, obviously we've all grown so much, and so much has changed technology-wise. I learn something new literally every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Doug, if you could speak to what the acceptance by a company like Panini America, what did that mean to the launch of your business and to the growth of your business?
I mean, yeah, just like these guys said, trying to learn the tech. I mean, we could only upload videos 8 minutes at a time. The live platform, wouldn't record, so you had to upload. It had 2 cameras set up, but having that event with you, I think in 2013 with Chris Bryant, Schwarber, Corey Seager, and just being able to interact with them, and you guys embracing me. At the time, it was only me out there in Arizona, and just allowing me to interact with these athletes, bring our consumer base, and actually educate the athletes on the cards. Because at that time, I think it was Chris Bryant. We were breaking like 2012 National Treasures baseball, and he thought it was the coolest thing. He had no idea that this existed. He was like, "What's in this box? Wow, there's memorabilia, there's bat knobs, there's all this stuff." And he was like, "I think he's a card collector now." So
yeah, because of that,
I may have gotten Chris Bryant into cards. You know, me and you. I
Way
don't
to
know.
go, Doug.
So
I knew you had it in you. Brian, talk about some of your favorite early days story. Is there one event, one memory, one poll, one rough night starting that sticks out in your mind?
The entire thing. No, I'm just joking. No, it was, I think some of the earliest things that I can really remember about Panini being able to embrace breakers. It was a very taboo thing at the time, and it took a special individual. I remember pitching the idea that we get to sit down with the NFL players at the NFL rookie photo shoot, pitched them the idea in 2014. They were like, "No, oh man, oh no." They're like, "This is just crazy. Why would you ever let these hooligans sit with the NFL players?" And then it took a very special individual that saw the vision that we were trying to embrace and bridging the gap between the end consumer, which normally does not have access to NFL athletes, and we were able to bridge that gap. And it took a special guy, which is sitting right next to me, Mr. Kevin Hake,
ladies and
that
gentlemen.
saw the vision and implemented it. And hands down, I think without Kevin Hake embracing the breaking division, I don't think a lot of these people, actually this entire back booth would not exist if one person at Panini, or a couple people, wasn't very vocal about it and said, "Hey, listen, let's embrace this. Let's not run away from it." And so that's why we have Kevin Hake and his team to thank for literally this entire back here. Nobody's listening back there, but you wouldn't be back here if it wasn't for this guy right here.
Big facts. Chris Keller, you talked about how you started a little bit later than the other distinguished panelists up here. What did you see from them that compelled you to take the leap yourself?
Being up here is very surreal because in 2014 I told my wife I'm going to open up sports cards in the basement on YouTube, and it's going to be good. It's going to work. Promise me. And thank you for giving that opportunity.
Faith.
But the panel right here, literally these guys right here is who I found first when I was searching for breaking. So they had paved the road, how things look, how they would never tell me how they do PYTs, and they still haven't told me to this day. But they were doing all the different breaks and set the model for it. And the thing is, they were extremely supportive and helpful and embraced what I was trying to do to bring, some entertainment, some creativity, some added value to the breaks. And it was fun to go through this journey for 9 years now with these dudes, and we're still here. And the first year was 2014, and I got a call to do breaks at the NFL draft. And I was nervous, I was scared, but you cannot say no to Panini. And Brian Gavin, you were there. And we set up and did breaks with the players. And it's just awesome to see this crew here and that we're all still here. And a lot of it is because of Panini and setting it up and embracing us at different events. And coming on podcast out of the blue, I'm new, and you came to the booth and just hung out with me and everyone else, and gives you credibility, keeps you motivated and that you're doing the right thing. So we do owe a lot to Panini, and thanks for doing that up until this point.
That's awesome. Brian, you mentioned the idea. I remember some of the discussions about when Kevin said we're going to have some of the breakers sit down with the players at the photo shoot or the draft. And there was that first year especially, we're in that room in California, I think it was, and we're like, what? And it may not have been the first year, but I remember breaking with, I believe it was Carlos Williams, is that the running back from the Bills? Right? And one of the benefits of having the players break with some of the top breakers in the business is those dudes created lifelong collectors of their cards with their personality. It was another way for the player's personality to show through, because you don't see that in a photo or the front of a card. But when you give them 30 minutes, 40 minutes to rip cards, and they talk about the players on them, it creates lifelong collectors. But Kevin, talk about what that process was like of pitching that idea to your bosses, and how that went.
Well, our boss embraced it. It was the leagues that we had to convince, and the posturing with the leagues that this was a good idea. They were like, so wait a second, you're going to take our athletes, put them on a live platform with a microphone that's streaming live, with a community that has keyboards in front of them, and you think this is going to be a good result? And we're like, yeah. we think it's going to be great. So we worked so far in advance with the leagues, and we sent YouTube video clips and links to live breaks to the point where we had to build the trust with the institutions who worked with us. And also, we had to send IP addresses of all these guys early on because they literally had somebody sitting in an office back in a corporate, office building in Maryland or New York City or whatever, and watching the live stream. And we had a text communication, and if something that they didn't like went on, they could have ended it all instantaneously. But that never happened because we ingratiated ourselves with this panel of guys who I consider to be like the Mount Rushmore of breakers.
No doubt.
And they did a great job with the athletes, and the athletes really opened up to them. And what was the most interesting aspect from my viewpoint is that the athletes understood more the business side of football or basketball as they were going through it.
Yep.
And when they pulled a redemption card of themselves, and we got to tell them, this is what happens when you don't send in your autographs on time.
Absolutely.
They would have this moment of clarity going, oh my gosh, I let my fans down. And they would sometimes sign the redemption card. I think there's a Josh Allen redemption card that's been signed by Josh that's out there on social media that says, I'm sorry, or something like that. And somebody's graded it, and it's a great collector's item. But that doesn't happen if we don't open these doors to people.
Yeah.
And the athlete then understands more about the business side of our industry, because for them, it's just signing stickers, just trying on jerseys, just running through a photo shoot. But when they get to see the final product, there was this light bulb moment. There was an epiphany, and it was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It really did. A light bulb did go off. And the number of times you guys have had a player on your stream pull a redemption card of player X, maybe it's a player they know or their teammate, and they look in the camera and say, dude, sign your cards. All right? But Kevin, your point about this panel, it isn't like we embraced everybody. We had to do our due diligence, and we had to vet the breakers that we wanted to partner with, all really good people, good human beings first, good business practices. So it's not a coincidence that we embraced these guys and they're still here. They were always going to do things the right way. But for each of our panelists, we'll start with Brian. One moment from your breaking career that stands out above any others.
Breaking career moment that stands out. I think it was the 2017 pre-draft up in Chicago. Kevin was like, hey man, I'm going to sit you down with this dude. He's got crazy hair, super hot mom. And I was like, what do you mean? Where's the mom? No, I was like, whoa, no. I was like, who is it? He's like, I don't know. Dude, he's supposed to go third round, no big deal. Pat Mahomes. So he sits me down with Pat Mahomes. I'm sitting with Pat. He's the nicest dude ever. Literally, genuinely the nicest person I've ever met. We broke elite draft or something like that. He pulled out his own card, and it was a gold out of 10, and he signed it with a gold thing and just literally made it one of the rarest cards that will ever exist. And but just sitting down with that, and being able to interview Patrick and talk to these guys on a real level and see how normal, for the most part, a lot of athletes are.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the best and one of the most memorable moments I've had.
I love that. That's great. Mahomes is a really good dude. Chris Keller, same question. The moment that stands out above any other for you in your breaking career.
Within the first year of starting the business and having the opportunity to do breaks at the NFL draft here in Chicago was kind of an early moment for me that I'll never forget. But I set a goal to join everybody out at the rookie premiere photo shoot in California. And to be able to do breaks out there was a really good highlight. And then the first year I did the National, I felt as though that we're on the way because that's where I got to meet you all in person. and set up and do breaks here live at the National. And I remember the National the first time 8-9 years ago. I don't even think we had table covers. I mean, it was like flea market tables and maybe a skinny banner. And so when you walk this floor today and see these huge displays and the size and everything, it definitely has changed a little bit. But I'll never forget those early moments in the bonds that we had together. You know, yeah, we've all pulled big cards. We've had big hits. We've done breaks with people. But I'll always remember those early days. And leaving the basement and moving into the first retail shop are kind of the biggest memories that I have so far. And hope to make some new ones going forward.
Oh, yeah. You'll always make new ones. Doug, same question. Kind of your favorite moment so far of your breaking career.
One of the more challenging moments that came back around was the 2019 NFL premiere in LA. And Kevin was like, we're going to bring up Kyler Murray. And Kyler was kind of hit or miss all day. And he comes up next to me, and I introduce myself, and I tell him that we're going to open up some packs, and he's scratching his head, and he doesn't look very happy. He's looking around, and there's a moment I'm like, I think he's just going to leave. I think he's done with me. He's like, I'm not cool. I'm not doing this. And then I think somebody in the chat saved me because they're like, I'm a big Arizona Cardinals fan, and his face lit up. And then that was it, and he was having fun after that. So it was just being able to, like, introduce him into a community of what's going on. He was apprehensive at first and then enjoyed it. We started talking about players. His dad was close with Barry Bonds, and I'm a big Barry Bonds guy, so we had a great conversation, signed some stuff, took some pictures, and it went from a kind of a stressful moment to, man, this was amazing. So
You won him over. The chat won him over. Rich Layton, same question.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from.
Yes.
In present company, one that really stands out right now, and an early industry summit is probably 2013, I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, this is very, very early breaking. We were doing live breaks from the industry summit in the Orleans in Las Vegas. And I actually had, I was brand new. I was a brand new company. I was there trying to make a name for myself, introduce myself to everybody. And there was a company there, Mojo Break, who I had started to get to know. This is, second time we had ever met, I believe, at that point. And they were doing live breaks at the industry summit, and they were absolutely buried in base cards that they had to sort in person to get them to the people that were all standing there waiting for their cards. And I looked over at them, and they glanced up at me, and they were absolutely sweating bullets. And it was humbling, number one. And number two, I asked if I could help. And my wife and myself and a couple of friends, we all sat down, and we all started sorting base cards. And it was just a really cool moment that I'll never forget. I kind of feel like that catapulted a lot of my relationships at that summit, and it was just really cool to kind of get to know them on a personal level. I'll never forget that moment. The look in Dan's eyes when there was a person in his face screaming in his face, like, I want my cards now. And I mean, nothing's done. Nothing was done. So I just grabbed, this is pre-sorting trays. We're stacking cards. And we stayed all night long. And we sorted cards, and then we went out to the bar, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, that really speaks to the camaraderie. I mean, yeah, I think Dan wanted to run away and hide in a closet in that moment because there was a lot of tech issues. There was some fundamental issues with the event itself, and these guys stepped in. I mean, you would think a competitor would be just like sitting in the back laughing at you and going like, watch him fail, but it's never been that way with us. And I consider all of us breakers up here friends, and we do anything for each other.
Do you remember the first Breakers Roundtable we did in Vegas? I think there was literally 12 of us there. In a little meeting room, there was 12, 14 of us, and we were like, okay, so what are we all going to do? The first Breakers Roundtable was like 14 people. Maybe 12.
That's awesome.
So, actually, Panini hosted that event.
Yep.
Right? And it was actually called the Round Table, wasn't it?
The Round Table.
Yeah.
Michael Hodges, you didn't answer that question yet, did you?
I did not.
I didn't forget about you.
Yeah. I'm gonna go like more modern. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to choose from over the years, but one thing that always stood out to me about Panini is like from day one for me. Obviously, in the early years of breaking, like the hours were absolutely insane. I mean, unbelievable. 100-hour weeks were common, and so for me, as we progressed and like built as an industry and as a segment of the industry, like finding time for my family was like became a priority because we had given so much in the early years to make this dream happen. And so you guys have always like just embraced my family. And so this year, earlier this year in LA, for the rookie photo shoot, having to have my son out there and watch him connect through the breaks with the players as our customers are watching online, as Zay Flowers and Tank Dell are just like having a blast opening a case of football, and then watching my son just connect in all of that was like the most fulfilling moment of my life, like in this career period. Like it's no question. And so that part of it and seeing it all work is unforgettable.
I love that. That's a great memory. And you know, the thing that is true, and Kevin and I talk about this a lot, is like we're not in so many people look at this as like a money business, right? And it is, of course, at the end of the day. But more importantly, it's a family and a people business. And man, you surround yourself with good people and you love people, man, everything comes back to you tenfold. So we feel that way about you guys. I mean, Kevin and I have cried. I know I've cried talking to Kevin about family and what it means. The people mean everything. The cards are just secondary. But speaking of the cards, another development is like making, and this, if you would have told us this in 2012, 2013, we're going to make a special product for breakers. People would have lost their minds and jumped off the tallest building. Kevin, talk about how that even came about and how it progressed.
So we're sitting and talking with our product development teams all the time about the feedback that we get and what the trends that we're seeing in the industry. And one of the things we kept mentioning to our group at Panini was the time value equation in the room. And that didn't mean in the card shop or at a show, but the actual time value in the break room and how long it took breakers to open our product. And so we had long discussions about what pack count meant in product and what type of hits needed to be not only in every pack and not only in every box, but more importantly, how we move things to a case level type format. So we wanted products to be opened effectively and efficiently, but we also needed to motivate collectors, breakers, and everybody down the chain to open things by the case level. So we challenged our product development team to come up with case level hits. That's how you get things like Color Blast and Color Wheel and Downtowns and the list, Stained Glass, and the list goes on and on. But then more effectively, we looked at the number of boxes in a case and said, could we go from a 16-box case to a 12 or a 16-box case to an 8 and have it be as equally as effective so the breaking community can get through product faster and we can have more product opened up in the same amount of time with time in the room. So we challenged our group, and our company embraced it fully. And there were some naysayers. Some guys were like, no, Contenders football always has to have way too many packs in it, and it's got to have 5 autographs in it. But slowly over time, people came around to some things, and we morphed, and we got an industry to the point where 12 boxes is about where we are maximum in most cases. But each box has a reason for living, and each case and SKU has a reason for being, because it's all about these guys. And the hobby shop could transform with them rather than being the conduit. They were now the conduit for change rather than being the other way around, which it had been for so long.
Did the breakers, we can go one at a time down the line, but what did it mean to you guys that you had become so instrumental that you were kind of altering the way products are made? And let's go. Let's start with Rich. You weren't listening, were you, Rich? Oh.
So Chris Keller and I were actually just mentioning contenders. We wish they would bring the basketball format to football. That would be amazing.
Breaking news. It's happening this year.
Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Breaking news right now, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news.
So that's huge. That's mic drop moment right there.
We just probably broke hobby Twitter with that announcement right there.
Dude, that's huge. That's
the
amazing.
basketball format's coming to football.
Yeah, I mean, so we've always kind of embraced all formats of product, but when Panini started innovating, I remember preferred basketball, which changed into a couple of different products at the time, and now they're more like an insert. Now that you can find those prime silhouettes inside of Crown Royale, which is an easier product to rip. So, we've always embraced the changes that Panini's trying to make in terms of elevating breakers and making things easier for us and easier for the customer.
And Chris, talk about those things like Color Blast or Kaboom or those case it chases that you guys kind of help spearhead, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah, those are obviously those have become a vital part of the hobby. I mean, autos are still sought after, but usually they're looking for the lower numbers, the golds. So every time these inserts come that are super, super, super short printed, they're really popular and they look beautiful. It's definitely a part of the way that they look is what brings the demand. And there's a community that people, like you said earlier, they're afraid, why are they doing this? Breakers are messing things up. There's no base. Well, when people come into the shop and they open up cards, they'll leave me their base and say, put it in for the kids stack, put it in the box, and we use them later for the kids and things. So that's a smaller segment. We love the hits that are condensed, and chasing those super, super, super short prints is definitely still, actually, it's kind of a bigger part, in my opinion, than the autographs sometimes, depending which ones they are. Kaboomies.
Yeah, Michael, when you pull something like that, like a Kaboom, a Color Blast, do you ever think about, yeah, man, I had a part in building these things?
I mean, I guess not really thought about it that way, but I'd always been a believer that you can only go so far by just adding memorabilia. Shields are shields. What are we gonna do next? Jock strap swatches. Whatever. And so I've always said, like, there's got to be a way to add value and chase the products without having to increase, the memorabilia aspect of it. And so to see these awesome designs and use scarcity to drive value, it was so awesome because we had just over and over told our customers, because even early on, like, Prism wasn't huge. And we had to preach, that, like, there's value in scarcity and value in color beyond just an autograph. And so to see that now, I mean, the biggest chases in the hobby tend to be non-autograph stuff that are just super rare and super hard to come by with awesome art. And so to see that happen, and now it's integrated into everything we do, pretty freaking awesome.
I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. I don't know how much time we have left, but I want to we have time. You're in luck. So the pandemic hit and the hobby exploded. And Rich and I were talking about this the other day. If you were to go back in time, like Oppenheimer's about getting the smartest brains in the world to create the bomb, right? So if there was like a Hobbyheimer type thing, and you got the brightest brains in the hobby, you put them all in a room 20 years ago and said, how do we possibly survive a pandemic? If a pandemic's never going to come, but if it does, how would the hobby survive? They would come up with breaking